When it comes to big ideas, no one thinks bigger than my old friend Keith Teare, legendary venture capitalist, investor, entrepreneur, co-founder of TechCrunch, and many other interesting internet startups. In the midst of the pandemic, Keith has put his thinking cap on again and has a solution to the crisis in terms of establishing universal basic income for everyone in the world without the permission of government. Keith, have you gone really crazy now, or is this a serious idea?
Well, I thought I was a little bit crazy when I first thought of it, but the more I've put myself into the ecosystem of people who are thinking about universal basic income, and the more I've tested the ideas, the more convinced I am. Firstly, that governments will never do it. Secondly, that the human race needs it. And then thirdly, that it is actually possible.
Well, there's no doubt that we need it. It would be an amazing idea to have universal basic income, given that somewhere between 20 and 25% of people around the world have been made unemployed by the pandemic crisis. But who's going to pay for this thing?
Well, that's a good question. And I mean, your 25% number is very pertinent, but I think we all know that as automation becomes more and more ubiquitous, that 25% number over the next decade is going to rise significantly just because of progress. So not being in work is going to become normal. And somebody has to allow the human beings who are, through no fault of their own, not in work, to be able to subsist and survive. So who's going to pay for it? That's an interesting question. I think the true answer is nobody's going to pay for it. It doesn't need to be paid for. What we need to do is to adopt an already existing practice and universalize it. And that's the practice of giving discounts in exchange for coupons. I don't know if you've ever been in the checkout line at Safeway when somebody who's collected coupons is paying, and product by product is giving the coupons over to the checkout assistant and getting things cheaper than if they didn't have the coupons. It's a standard thing in society. If you own United Miles, you've probably had the experience of spending them for electronic devices, for example. So we already have mechanisms in society to give people the ability to procure without money. What I've figured out is that we could universalize that and deliver discount coupons or tokens to everyone in the world who qualifies, which basically means they need to be a citizen, to decide what amount to give them, and then to have merchants accept those tokens or coupons as a discount against products and services. We already do it. We already have the systems to do it. We can universalize it. All we really have missing is two things. One thing that's missing is a common coupon that you can use everywhere, because you don't want to have a Safeway coupon and a Walmart coupon and an Amazon coupon. So a common coupon that you can use anywhere. And secondly, that the merchants can have a wallet and the consumer can have a wallet whereby the coupons can be spent by the consumer and put into the wallet of the merchant. If we had that, we can start issuing dollar-denominated coupons to everyone in the planet.
So, Keith, this is not a traditional UBI idea, because traditionally in UBI, the government gives citizens money. What you're saying is the government gives citizens coupons, which is quite different. They can't put coupons in the bank.
Well, here's the thing. Follow through the logic. The first is, it isn't the government that gives them. It's the government of the coupon authority. So my company will be the coupon authority. So we'll have governance. We'll give the coupons. All you have to do is prove that you're a citizen of a nation with a passport or a driver's license. We'll issue you a digital wallet and we'll give you coupons. We will then undertake to negotiate with merchants to accept the coupons. So over time, you'll be able to spend the coupons from a wallet with merchants for, potatoes or fish or meat or whatever you want to buy with it. Initially, that is likely to be a fraction of your bill. Maybe 10% of your bill will be discounted using coupons. The very act of the merchants taking the coupons in exchange for goods and services will deem them to have a value. Just like money has a value. Money has a value because it's accepted and you can exchange it for things. And anything that you will be able to spend in exchange for things is in fact money. So that's how it works.
But you couldn't pay your rent with this, and in this crisis, the first place where people can't afford to pay for stuff is rent. That enables them to live.
Well, the thing is, I wouldn't assume that that's right, that you can't pay a rent with it. If your landlord can spend this stuff, then why wouldn't your landlord accept it?
So this is a currency that you're imagining. Is that fair?
I think from a transactional point of view, it behaves very like a currency, but from a legal point of view, it isn't. It's a discount coupon. And that's important because currency is taxed, and currency is subject to all kinds of money wire transfer laws. By being a discount coupon, it's not regulated. It's simply voluntary by the receiver to agree to receive, and there's no government hurdles to jump through.
I know that PayPal, which is one of the largest electronic financial companies, recently acquired Honey, which is a online coupon company. Would they see what you're trying to do as competition, or is your vision something entirely new?
There are some similarities. Honey aggregated lots of custom coupons and then presented them to you at the checkout based on what you bought. So if you were buying, if you were buying a product, it would find the custom coupon for that product and offer it up. So in a sense, Honey was aggregating lots of different coupon types and giving you a wallet-like experience where when you checked out, you could spend one of those coupons. The main difference with what this idea is firstly, there is only a single type of coupon. There are not lots and lots of custom coupons. There's just one let's call it the Universal Basic Income coupon. So there's only one, it's the same worldwide. And we ask anyone selling anything or renting anything to accept it at least as part payment. And they can determine what percentage they'll accept as payment in these coupons. And unlike Honey, which is an aggregator, we are an issuer. We are minting or printing these coupons every month for everyone in the world. So there's some differences, there's some similarities.
But who's going to take you seriously, Keith? I mean, I take you seriously and everyone in Silicon Valley takes you seriously. But why would people around the world take Keith Teare's new company, which suddenly announces that there's universal basic income for everyone as long as you use our coupons? Where's the credibility here? How are people going to trust you in what you're doing?
Well, Andrew, because you're a friend, I'm giving you a preview of an idea that you're quite right, would not be credible if I was now on a pedestal announcing this to the world as a product. So I have some work to do.
On Hyde Park Corner, or at least the digital version of Hyde Park Corner on Facebook or Twitter or something.
Yes, exactly. Or Times Square. So clearly I have work to do so that your question doesn't even arise. Now, it's interesting. Jack Dorsey recently put $1 billion worth of value into a bucket and said some of it's going to be used to help universal basic income come about. We know that people like the Google founders or Mark Benioff or Mark Cuban, for that matter, have all shown interest in big ideas that can transform the ability of people to deal with change, especially in a crisis like today, but just normal change as well. So I think it's on me to make sure that before this thing is launched, it is properly architected, properly designed, that there's buy-in from important people who can underwrite some of the to a normal person. It actually works and is credible.
Is this a non-profit that you're envisioning?
That's to be determined. I personally feel that's a pragmatic question. I don't have a strong point of view myself. It is the custom these days to do impact-based for-profits, and that could easily work here, just by the merchants agreeing to pay the entity a certain percentage of the sales volume that it drives. It's probably a small percentage, maybe even less than 1%. But it also could be a not-for-profit where, as it mints these coupons, it retains some for its own treasury that it can sell in order to raise capital to run the whole service. So I'm pretty open-minded. I think the default assumption would be that it's a not-for-profit, but with an open mind in case the people who put up the initial money up would rather it was an impact-based for-profit.
Would the people use it? Would your product be blind to the people using it? In other words, would a multi-billionaire like Mark Benioff or Mark Cuban or Jack Dorsey, would they have the same opportunity to acquire this UBI as an unemployed Uber driver or someone who just got laid off by their factory?
I think the only way it really works is if you give it to everyone, because the bureaucratic overhead of trying to determine where the line is and who is on either side of the line would cost more than just giving it to everyone. So I think the smart thing is to give it to everyone. Of course, not everyone would spend it. And part of the idea, by the way, is that you can use it in peer-to-peer transactions. So for example, if I was to come in and help you with your studio as a friend, you could send some coupons from your wallet to mine as a kind of a thank you for the effort I put in. And I think over time, unpaid effort, the obvious example of unpaid effort is housewives at home who put in massive effort and don't get paid. Unpaid effort could be rewarded with these coupons.
Keith, you're always, whatever one might make of your ideas, you're always way ahead of everyone. But
too far ahead is bad, by the way.
Too far ahead, but the world always catches up with every idea you've had has always won out in the end. May not be your company, but someone's come along and achieved it. Is your vision then suggesting that you're going to have this crash or this synthesis of fintech and government? Are you imagining that the essential architecture of global capitalism is going to be reinvented in a post-pandemic digital world?
Well, I think capitalism is an evolutionary system anyway. Capitalism in 2020, by any dimension, whether you're looking at the role of the state in the national economy or you're looking at the role of supranational institutions globally, capitalism evolves. And it feels to me as if that evolution points to a fairly consistent pattern, which is more and more people are more and more interdependent and are more and more global and are dependent financially on more and more things that have nothing to do with their own nation. It feels as if, if you go, from the invention of air flight through to, before that, the telegraph, to in modern times, the telephone and then the internet, and now Zoom, that the distance between people is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And the role of national governments in providing all that infrastructure is also shrinking as companies take on global missions. So I think the production of money globally that can be exchanged for goods and services is no longer a crazy idea. I do expect that it will not be a straight line and that there will be all kinds of issues, as for example, we've seen with Libra and governments, the Facebook initiative. So I expect it won't be a straight line, but I do expect there's a clear end point, which is people who are not working because there is no work, not because they're poor, but because of automation, will be able to sustain themselves with some kind of an instrument that gives them access to the things that they need, and will be able to expend effort over and above that to get additional resources if they so choose.
This is all very attractive, but the world in reality is very different, isn't it, from your globalist vision? We're talking on a day that Donald Trump announced that he was not allowing any more immigration into the United States. We're talking at a time where nationalist leaders in the Philippines and Brazil and Poland and Hungary are in ascendancy, where we're talking at a time where Donald Trump's writing off international organizations like the WHO, talking at a time where Britain has pulled out of the EU and now the very future of the EU is in question. Are you confident about this long-term future of globalism in a world where nationalism and ethnicity and hostility to outsiders and xenophobia seems to be dominant?
Well, look, I don't think you can be confident. That would be naive. But I do think you can understand the current trend towards national identity or let's say specific identity as being entirely understandable in a world that feels out of your control. I do think people are urgently wanting to be able to be in control and have some kind of certainties in their life. And in the absence of any practical mission that can give them that, they are going to cling on to parochial, narrow, or divisive ways of thinking. And so I'm not critical, actually, of the people who voted for Donald Trump or the people who voted for Brexit. I fully understand why that would feel like a good idea given this lack of control. I do think.
And your background, you grew up in Scarborough in Yorkshire, which was, I'm guessing, a hotbed for Brexit. So you understand this world better than many other coastal elites, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think it makes total sense. But then I think it's incumbent on us, and us collectively meaning people who are focused on the future and progress, to come up with very real solutions that impact people's lives and give them that sense both of control and of certainty about their future life. And universal basic income is certainly one of the tools in the toolbox that can contribute towards that.
Finally, Keith, you're a Silicon Valley insider. You live in Palo Alto. You've done a series of startups, both in the UK and the US. You're as well aware of anyone as the tech lash of the fact that many people, at least before the pandemic, were very critical of the irresponsibility of Silicon Valley. Is this idea itself a reflection, do you think, of a new, I know you're not Mr. Silicon Valley, but a reflection of a new kind of responsibility, the need to leverage technology to make the world a better place, to solve our most immediate social and economic problems?
Well, it's hard for me because I've always been a child of the Enlightenment intellectually. I've always thought that progress and technology belong together. And I've never felt that technology was the cause of a problem. It's often the opposite. It's the lack of technology that causes problems. I do think that Silicon Valley has a lot of people who care about the future of humanity and have the means to influence it. That's one of the nice things about Silicon Valley. By the same token, there's lots of people are only interested in making money. And it comes down to who do you want to hang out with? And I know which one I choose. And I think that will be reinforced through coronavirus. The desire to do good things that make the future better for people will be part of what Silicon Valley continues to be about. It always has been about that, really, despite the fact that people make large amounts of money from succeeding.